Hey y'all! Thank you so much for tuning into my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be bringing y'all another video for today. Alright, let's jump right in. So the topic for today's video is going to be God's will and God's way. So oftentimes we, as believers, we hear people tell us, to seek out God's will, seek out, and it's very important that you seek out God's will for your life, God's will for your marriage, God's will for your finances, God's will in this season, God's will if you're in school, God's will for your education, whatever, every single area of our life, we should be seeking God's will. But it's also just as important in seeking God's will is seeking God's way. God has a will, and God also has a way that he wants you to accomplish his will. And so it's so important in this new year that you're seeking God's will in this season, but also that you're seeking the way that he desires to accomplish his will. And the story in the Bible that God brought me to when he was speaking to me about his will and his way is the story of Abraham and Sarah in the Bible, where he tells Abraham to get out of his country, and he'll take him to a land that he will show him. Also, he tells Abraham that he's going to bless him, that his descendants are going to be just more than the grains of the sand, more than the stars in the sky. And so Abraham is standing on that promise, but at the same time, Sarah, his wife, is barren. Literally, in one chapter, you see where God was giving Abraham his promise and telling him how great and numerous his descendants were going to be. And then the next chapter, you see where Sarah and Abraham decide to take it into their own hands and accomplishing God's will of giving them descendants that will outnumber the grains of sand, descendants that will outnumber the stars in the sky. And so what they decide to do is, which Sarah introduces the idea of, hey, I'm barren, I haven't had any children. How about you sleep with my slave Hagar, and maybe that's going to bring forth the descendants that God promised. And so Abraham does it. They conceive Hagar, and Abraham conceive a child, and Hagar births Ishmael. So although that brought a child of Abraham, it wasn't the promised child that God had, for the descendants that God had promised Abraham. So God immediately took me to that story, and he said, I want people to seek me for my will and my way. In this season, in this new year, again, God desires his will to be done, but he desires it to be done his way. And so if it's something that you haven't really thought about, and you've just been seeking God for his will, it's important to seek the way as well. It's just as important that God's will is accomplished with God's way, because God's way is going to bring God the most glory. So in Abraham and Sarah's situation, if they're using their own way to conceive a son, their own human, fickle, limited thinking to conceive a son, there's no way that God gets glory from that. That's just something, that they did with their human ways, with their human understanding. The Bible says that God's ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways and his thoughts are so much higher than ours. So it's important that we accomplish his will with his way, because his way is going to bring him the most glory. His way, we're not going to be able to explain his way. We're not going to be able to take credit for his way, but it's just going to it's going to be supernatural and give him all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. And there's not going to be any other temptation to take credit for God's will being accomplished with God's way. All right, you guys, I hope this video blessed you. Be sure to like, be sure to share, and subscribe. I'll be bringing you guys videos every week. All right, have a wonderful day.